Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For the first timer, you are highly welcome. In today's video, we'll be learning how to cut a simple gown with an half cut. If you're interested, let's get started. For this tutorial, I'll be needing a fabric. I'm using a Ankara fabric as you can see, then the tape rule, the tailored stroke and the scissors. Now let's go to our cutting. For this style, I am using 2 yards of my Ankara fabric. Now the first thing to do is to place my Ankara fabric on fold. Just as you can see me doing, I am placing it on fold. And for this style, I am not using a pattern. This is freehand cutting, and I'm arranging my fabric. Make sure it is straight and I am placing it on fold. Now the first thing I'll be starting with is cutting out the half cut, that is the half length from the shoulder to the waistline. I'm trimming off the end parts of the fabric and I am folding my fabric with the right side facing each other. I will be inputting my measurement by starting with half of my shoulder, which is 7 inches, and I'm coming down by 1 inches just like we do on the pattern paper, to form my shoulder slope. Then I'll be measuring my neck width, that is 3 inches. I'll draw a line to meet the neck width, and from the shoulder slope I will come down by 6.5 inches. This is because my gown is a sleeveless gown. If you're going to be attaching sleeves to the gown, then make sure you do your normal armhole. And how do you get your armhole? That is by dividing your bust circumference by 6 and adding 1.5 to it. The next thing to do is to find the quarter of my bust circumference, then find the midpoint of my armhole line and then draw a line, draw a curve to meet it to form the round armhole. The next thing is to measure my shoulder to my half length, which is also known as shoulder to the half cut or to the waistline. And this is because this gown is a straight gown with an half cut. Now my shoulder to my waistline is 15 inches, but I'm adding 1 inch for sewing allowance to join to the down part of the gown. And the next thing to do is to take the quarter of my waist measurement, then add my sewing allowance, then add 1 inch for that also, because I'll be taking in my dart on the waistline. For the neckline, feel free to use any inches you want to use according to your creative mind, but for me I am going to go down by 3 inches also to form a round neckline. On the waistline, I'll be going in by 3.5 inches to serve as my half of my nipple to my nipple measurement, which is for the dart. And this is me showing you my neckline, the shoulder slope, the armhole, and the waistline, because this gown is an half cut gown. Then what I'll do is to cut it out. After cutting it out, I'm going to notch the darts I took on the fabric. And this is all for the front piece of the upper body. To cut out the back piece, I will simply put the front piece I cut out on fabric also folded as you can see me do, then making sure I leave out some allowances at the back, at the center back, for my zipper allowance. Here I am using 1.5 inches for my zipper allowance. Then I will measure 1 inch down on the neckline and extend it to the zipper line, to the zipper allowance I gave. Then I will cut it out. I'll make sure that the side of both the front and the back are equal. The only place that I have is the center front of the back, where I make sure that my zipper allowance. After cutting, I will cut out the neckline, then trim all unnecessary, making sure that the fabrics are the same on the size. Then I will split the zipper allowance open to give me 2 pieces for the back. Then I will notch the front and the back for that placement. Now to cut out the down part of the gown, what I will do is to simply place my fabric on fold again, just as you can see me do. Now to get the measurement for the down part, I'll be subtracting my half length that I cut out earlier from my total gown length, and that is 40 minus 15. That will give me 25. So that means I'll be using 25 for the down part of my gown, and I will add 2 inches to serve as hemming for the skirt, and also to join the upper part of the down part to the upper bodies. Now I'll measure 27, then I'll mark that as my waistline, then come down from my waistline by 8 inches to serve as my hip line. Then I will take my quarter of my waistline, my waist, then quarter of my hip. Then because I wanted this gown to be straight, I'll be using the hip measurement, the quarter of my hip measurement also for the hem line. For the hem line, then I will come down, draw my lines to connect. Then I will measure out my sewing allowance. Then I cut out. I didn't realize the camera was not taking the full length of the down part, as at the time I was measuring and cutting out the fabric, and because of that I'm very sorry. After cutting it out, what I'm going to do is to come up by 1.5 inch for hemming, which will be used to turn the gown with the lining later on. So when I'm done with that, I will use pin to hold my fabrics to put it in place. Then when I'm done doing that, I will place it on the fabric to cut out the back, or the back part of the gown also. What I'm simply going to do is to place it on the fabric also, measure out my zipper allowance just like I did for the upper bodies, and cut out. Make sure you arrange the fabrics together. Make sure the lines are all equal to avoid one piece of the gown being longer than the other. The lengths are equal, the size are equal. The only thing here is the zipper allowance, just like as you see me leave. Then I cut it out. This is it after cutting it, and you can see all the lines, all the size are equal. And I also notch out my dart area. So this is me trying to show you how it is looking after cutting it out. This is the front piece, the down part of it, and the half cut I cut out earlier. So this is how it is going to look now. I'm going to cut out the lining piece, and here I have already cut out the lining piece. You can see that the lining was not cut out, the length was shorter than the fabric. That is because I'll be turning it in. I also repeated the same thing for the back. Just as you can see, I stopped the lining at where I notched it. Then for the front piece, I already cut out my lining piece for the front and the back piece also. Then I'll head to the sewing. To sew, place the lining on the right side of the fabric, just as you can see me doing. Now the lining does not have the right side or the wrong side, so you can place it anyhow you want to. Just make sure it is aligned. Then you run a stitch on the neckline, just as you see me indicated. Then after running a stitch, you stop stitch, so that the neckline will be firm. You run a stitch on the other part, just as I'm indicating with my finger. This is because I want to use the lining to turn it out, and because it is sleeveless, that is why I'm also using the lining. This is me, I've done it. I am trimming out all the excesses. After doing this, I'm going to notch it out so that it will come out flat after I turn it out with the lining. Now it is not compulsory to sew your fabric in like this, but to have a neat finishing, then if you want to have a neat finishing, then you can do it this way. You can see this is me turning it out now. It is looking very neat even without ironing. It is looking very neat now. So what you're going to do is to give it a good press, then run a stitch on the down part and put your dart. Now for the back, I'll also be repeating it for the back. I already top stitched the neckline. Now I'll be joining the front and the back, just as you can see me doing. I'll be placing the right side facing each other, the right side of the back and the front, and make sure that it is aligned. You can see I am placing it the way that the armholes are the same, not the other side of the fabric. Then you can use pin to hold it down, then put your lining on it, then you stitch just as you can see me doing with my finger. You stitch along the line, and this is the final result. You can see that it is coming out very well. Also, you give it a good press, you run a stitch and put your dart. Now for the down part of the gown, make sure the lining is aligning with the fabric, just as you can see me doing. You first place it like that, then you run a stitch. After doing this, you're going to now straighten it up to make sure that the lining is meeting the upper part of the skirt piece. The lining is meeting it, just as you can see. You see me turning it out where I notched earlier. So I will use that one. I'll use it to bring the fabric so that the fabric will meet up with the upper part. Then after doing this, I'm going to notch also and turn it out. Now the reason why I'm not closing up the upper part of this skirt part of the gown is because I'll be joining it to the upper bodies of the gown. After turning it out, this is how it looks. Then you repeat the same thing for the back. The next thing is to join the upper part and the down part together. As you can see me doing, I already notched the center of the two pieces and I'll be running a stitch on it on the machine. After doing this, I'll repeat the same thing for the back. And here is how it's looking out. I already closed up my zipper allowance, as you can see, and I'm arranging the front and the back piece together to make sure they are equal on the sides. After doing this, I'll be imputing my measurement and head over to the machine to sew. I'm done with that and it's time to put my zipper. I'll be measuring my zipper on the actual length I want and mark it with my tailor's chalk and head over to the machine to stitch. I'm done with the zipper. Now is for me to measure how long I want my sleeves, my back sleeves to be. And here I'm measuring 10 inches and marking with my tailor's chalk. Then I'll head over to the machine and stitch and open up the sleeves. And that's all for the gown. And here is how the gown turns out. I'll be in the comment section to answer any question. Thanks for watching. Bye.